Good morning, Fargo. Tony Gehrig, Fargo City Commissioner, giving your update for the January 3rd Fargo City Commission meeting. There are three topics that I want to cover here today. I will speak quickly because they're larger, so I'll try to keep it under the 5 minutes. But that's the hope here. The Stern home, I think most of us have seen this in the news. It was asked for us to reconsider, which is what we ended up doing. There was no official, I don't think, vote taken. What we ended up doing was we asked our employees, engineering and so forth, to look into the idea of, are we able to move a flood wall behind the Stern home at a reasonable price in order to save a historic home? If you don't know exactly what happened, he lives near the river by Lindenwood Park. He has an historic home. It's a very nice home, obviously, and it will be bought and demolished, if not moved, in order to create a dike behind there to save a whole lot of other houses. Most houses in that area have already been bought out. He is still remaining with, I believe, 1 or 2 other people waiting to be bought out. A flood wall, if you don't know, is exponentially more expensive than a earthen levee. I think there's obvious reasons for that. There's a lot more engineering that goes into that. It's a wall instead of a big dike there. So it costs a lot more money to do that. So what really ended up happening was his home is worth X amount of dollars, in the 200 to 300,000 ish range, give or take. A wall would cost millions of dollars. So what Mr. Stern said was that if it makes dollars and cents to save my home with a wall, let's do it. He conceded by the end that if it costs $2 million, $3 million to build this wall, obviously it can't be worth it. So he was very reasonable. It played out in the papers. There's videos. I encourage you to watch the commission meeting about it. People, I think, want to save the home, as we want to save all homes, by the way. But we can't be making special dispensations for a home just because it has historical value and take other people's homes. Everyone loves their home, right? Everyone in Fargo doesn't want to lose their home. And this is no different. But to say one is more important than the other intrinsically, I don't believe is correct. And Mr. Stern was very reasonable in that regard. Midco exemption, a $500,000 exemption for a multi-million-dollar building here in Fargo. It's going to be a data center, which basically, if you've seen a server room where you work or things like that, it's going to be a huge server room, basically, is what's going to be. Hundreds of thousands of square feet, or tens of thousands, I should say. It's a very large building. And they're asking for a $500,000 exemption in order to get that. In talking with Midco, one thing we need to realize is that this type of building needs 2 utility hookups. So it needs a Cass County Electric, say, and an XL Energy to pipe into this building in order to make it a Tier 3 facility, which it wants to be. There are very few places in the country that can offer that. Fargo is one of those places in a very specific location. As some of you know, utilities are usually split up so they can't overlap. In this scenario, they wouldn't be able to do that. So Fargo is where this is going to be. It is one of the only places in the country, let alone the region, that it can be. And in my opinion, they were coming here anyway, as I usually argue. So I did sit down with Mid-Continent. They were very nice people. I had their discussion with them. I told them how I thought this would pan out. And of course, it was a 4-to-1 vote, as it usually is. One thing that should be noted, that it's a $500,000 exemption, and they're hiring 2 people. So again, these incentives are out of hand. Just because we can give them away doesn't mean we should. And I think that most people would assume that we'd be hiring more people with a $500,000 exemption than 2 people. So while I'm very happy Mid-Continent is growing here in the city of Fargo, I think they would do it anyway because we are the best place for them. The Robert Street ramp. Okay, this was a discussion about art. Publicly funded art in the Robert Street ramp. And I really hope you go out right now and watch the January 3rd meeting at the end of the meeting and watch this debate, because this crystallizes my argument for publicly funded art and why it doesn't make any sense for the city of Fargo. There was dollars allocated to create a huge banner that would hang off the Robert Street ramp. So the money was there. They had committee after committee after committee look into what that banner should say, what it should look like, what it should do. And in true government form, no committee was able to come to an agreement as to what should be on the banner. So money was allocated, committees were appointed to look into this, and government killed it. Government killed art because they couldn't come to an agreement as to what would be on the banner. So bureaucracy is not where art belongs. Art belongs in the hands of the people. I think if the city of Fargo allowed a private organization to fund their own banner and put over what they want, as long as it wasn't offensive or over the top, I think most things would have been just fine. We would have been fine with that. But because government insists on getting in the way and getting involved, it actually killed the art project that was going to go on the Robert Street ramp. So to me, it was a 15-minute debate going back and forth with all the commissioners, and I sat back and watched, and it was blowing my mind. And at the end of it, when everyone was done talking, I said, folks, this is why the government has no business in art. Going back and forth with this committee and that committee, and we can't have this, we must have that, and this person believes this and this person doesn't. It's too much. Bureaucrats can't do this. So it's a waste of money. It can be taken over by the private sector, and it would be much better. And it crystallized my position on publicly funded art. Public art, very good. Publicly funded art, not so much. So that was your breakdown for the January 3rd meeting. By all means, please watch the other videos. And always watch how your Fargo City Commissioners are spending your tax dollars.